Welcome everybody to Tuesday Night. This is a special edition of it with Red's Rhetoric, and somebody is echoing. So with Red's Rhetoric and a cast of excellent astronomers, I will introduce them in a second here. I want to make sure that the feedback is done. The feedback is indeed done. So let me get it going here. We've got in the house, of course, Red's Rhetoric. How are you, Reds?
Another day in paradise. How about you? How are you doing?
Oh, it's super here in Minnesota. It actually started getting
Super.
cold. We've got, let's go top left there. Sorry if you're uncomfortable top left. CC will be on later, maybe. Astronomy Live is showing a little bit of his footage there. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me. Hopefully I'm not top left. In this crowd, I probably am top left, so that's fine.
And top left in this crowd is still an honor. Then next we've got Professor Nixie. Professor Nixie is active on TikTok and live streams his views from his scope. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'll be doing that after this, and we'll be looking at images like this tonight.
That's cool. What is that?
The Great Orion Nebula.
All right. And then we've got bottom center. We've got Dr. Bob.
Hey, MC, how are you tonight? I'm not going to be looking at anything tonight because I've got shit for weather. And that should last until June.
Till June.
Yes. Welcome to Michigan.
What, Nixie, where are you that it's so clear all the time?
Denver.
Okay. All right. Well, this the topic of this is Reds is buying a scope. So I'll let him introduce it. And mostly he's going to be just driving this whole thing. But we got some special surprises. We should get that going shortly after your introduction there, Reds. And we'll hand it to Bob in a minute here.
Absolutely. So let me explain what's going on here. And what I'm about to say is going to upset Astronomy Live. It's going to just tear apart his soul. And I have to apologize to him in advance. But I think I may have outgrown the Nikon P1000. It had a good run. It really did. I did everything I wanted to do with it. I confirmed the curve with my Tampa Bay Blink test with it. It was tragic for flat Earth. I was able to film my first ever unbroken launch from launch to landing of a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket. I know it was terrible for flat Earth. They're still complaining about it to this day, especially the fact that to this day it has 3.2 million views. But moving on. I was able to film Artemis 1 with it, which was actually requested by Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, who then deleted his post right after I posted mine. And it did not help at all whatsoever that footage was featured on Scott Manley's channel. It was absolutely tragic, absolutely horrible. And we should definitely not bring that up to him and ask him why he deleted his tweet after I posted my video giving him exactly what he wanted. So do not bring that up to him. You will get blocked. And finally, I was able to do this thing called focusing. Now, to flat earthers that don't understand this concept, you can actually use that ring around the lens to make the image tighter. And so what I did, I was actually able to take a picture of Jupiter when the moon was going in front of it, and I was able to see a shadow of one of Jupiter's moons on Jupiter itself, proving that it isn't just a light in the sky. It's an actual object and has other objects orbiting around it that sometimes block the sun. It's amazing what you can find out where, focus becomes, important. So, but moving on. I believe, unfortunately, I have outgrown the P1000. Its capabilities were great. It has led to, and MC Tune, just for you, I actually calculated this for you. It has led to 26.2 kilotons of flat Earth butt hurt.
Oh, wow.
Yes. That's a lot of kilotons. That's a lot of butt hurt. And so I want to continue on this journey of producing epic amounts of flat Earth butt hurt. And unfortunately, much to the disappointment of Astronomy Live, I'll have to venture into his territory and getting myself a nice little telescope so that I may continue on this journey of getting measurements that flat earthers absolutely hate.
Well, that's I know, sad news for the P1000 lover inside of Astronomy Live, but it is quite amazing that you push the technology of the P1000 by focusing.
I know, it's absolutely amazing. There was this ring, and I was like, "Ooh, what does this do?" And then I learned how to use it, and I love it because flat earthers will be on Twitter posting these images of planets, and they're a blurry mess. And then here I come with the same exact camera, and I can see shadows on Jupiter. It's amazing what you can do
How
when
does
you
that
actually
happen?
focus the damn thing.
All right. Well, as promised, I think we maybe should get to the what Bob was wanting to share.
Absolutely, Bob. How's it going, good sir?
Oh, doing pretty good. I had a look at the telescope that you're looking at, and I think that I've got a little bit of news for you. First of all, your choice of telescope is excellent. The 8-inch Celestron Edge Smith-Cassegrain is a very nice telescope. It's got a good focal length, weighs less than 20 pounds. You can put it on just about anything. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the mount that you're going to put it on. I am not a big fan of alt-az mounts. I know that Astronomy Live has some software that works really well with alt-az mounts, and I know that a lot of the things that you do are going to be like tracking rockets and things where you don't want to worry about meridian flips. But I'm kind of a snob for German equatorial mounts, kind of like this one right here. This is a ZWO AM5. It's a harmonic mount, and it's a classic German equatorial mount. But I came up with a couple of options for you. Mike was kind enough to send me what you're looking at, and I did a little research with some people that I work with, and that's Woodland Hills Telescope and Camera out in California. That's www.telescopes.net. Really nice people. I've been working with them for a couple of years. As a matter of fact, they're sponsors of my observatory. So I got you a couple of little bits of information. First of all, why don't you tell everybody what scope you're looking at right now? And Mike, can you put that up?
Yeah, it's so
Absolutely.
telescopes.com or telescopes.net. You sent me a different one.
Telescopes.net.
Okay.
I type in TE on my browser and it takes me where I need to go.
Okay.
I'm on that
I just
site
want to make
way
sure I
too
got
much.
the correct one.
Yeah.
So okay. I
All
will
right.
pull up the web page here. Let me get
And yeah, I'll go ahead and describe. So the telescope I'm looking at is the Celestron CPC 800 with Edge HD. Now, there's a reason why I am going towards that telescope. As Bob mentioned, is because what we do with our telescopes is not what normal people do with their telescopes. We like to track satellites. We like to track the International Space Station. We also like to track rocket launches. And for that application, an alt-az mount works beautifully, and especially with Astronomy Live software, it works really, really well with Celestron mounts. We have experience using the Nexstar 8SE, and I had a custom-made bracket made that allowed me to adapt the Nikon P1000 onto it. That exact same software will work with this particular telescope. And also, the reason why I chose this telescope is because I can grow into it. And it gives me enough apertures that eventually I can do deep sky if I ever choose to go that route. And the edge optics allow the edge of the frame to be pin sharp, assuming you get the back focus right. But there's another big reason why I chose this telescope. And the reason is because normal Schmidt-Cassegrain telescopes suffer from something called mirror flop. And essentially, when we're tracking rocket launches, when we're tracking the International Space Station, if we start low on the horizon and we start gaining altitude, the mirror will actually flop within the image train. That means that the focus will then get out of sync. And so on the last rocket launch that we went to, I was actually manning the focus for Astronomy Live to keep it in focus. The Edge HD actually has a mirror lock within the tube itself. That mirror lock will prevent it from losing focus, at least to not to the extent that a normal Schmidt-Cassegrain would allow for the mirror to shift. So I consider that a huge benefit if I just want to set the focus on a star, make sure my Bahtinov mass is completely squared up, and get ready to track the International Space Station. Because once you focus on a star, you're focused on an International Space Station. And so it's that mirror lock that's really selling it to me. Now, I want to talk about my lowest priority. And my lowest priority for this telescope is deep sky. I want to primarily do satellites. I want to do International Space Station. I want to do rocket tracking. I don't really care that much about deep sky objects. My goal with this telescope is to give you something that flat earthers do not want you to have, and that's data. I want to produce data with this telescope. I want to give out measurements with this telescope, and I want to be able to track rocket launches in such a way where Astronomy Live is in one part of the viewing area. I'm in a different part of the viewing area, and we can do real-time parallax and actually track the altitude and the speed of the internet of not the International Space Station, the rockets. After we viewed it, we want to provide that information independent of NASA. So using this telescope for measurements is what we're actually aiming for. Deep sky is the very lowest priority I have. However, if I did want to go there, they do sell a wedge for this where deep sky becomes an option. So that's kind of my rationale for choosing this telescope, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I have it on screen right here. Right, is this the one you're talking about?
Yes, sir. So that's the Celestron CPC Deluxe 800 with Edge HD optics. And like I said previously, the reason for Edge HD, there's actually lens elements inside the center of the telescope in the image train that corrects for spherical defects towards the very edge of the frame. It corrects for that. But it also has that mirror lock mechanism that I talked about, which will prevent it from losing focus if I'm going from low on the horizon to very high up, like towards the zenith.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Since I used to track satellites and asteroids a few decades ago using a Paramount, what type of speed do you need the mount to make?
Astronomy Live can correct me on this, but I believe that the max that we would be at is 4 degrees per second. Is that correct, Astronomy Live?
Yeah, that's correct. 4 degrees per second.
So when we're using, so for example, that would be primarily for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy landings. From where we are located, and sometimes we get a lot closer, as was the case last time when we were at the Navajo pad, that rate is very, very fast. And so I know for a fact that the CPC mounts can actually keep up with that. Most telescope mounts don't have that speed.
So speed is one consideration. Also, the altitude azimuth alignment makes sense for Falcon launches, for rocket launches. Obviously, you've got the rocket on the horizon as it lifts off. You've got the rocket on the horizon again as it comes back down and lands. And so the altitude azimuth coordinate system just makes sense for doing that tracking. We could convert that for use for an equatorial scope, but the mounting alignment just doesn't. It isn't conducive to that kind of tracking necessarily. For satellites, you can do it with German equatorials. As Bob pointed out, you have the meridian flip potential issue there with an equatorial scope. There are some tricks to potentially try to align parallel with the orbital plane of the satellite. I know some people do that to get around that issue as much as possible and to make the tracking as smooth as possible. But for even an altitude azimuth scope, you can generally track satellites at least up to near the zenith. Now, at the zenith, of course, for a satellite making a 90-degree pass, it crosses the zenith, and then suddenly you have to turn around. The scope's going to take some time to do that, but you can track it up to the zenith without issue. And I've recorded, lots of footage of ISS like that up to the zenith with an altitude azimuth scope as well.
Yeah, exactly. The main thing is, or my main goal with this telescope is going to be the International Space Station and other satellites. One of the things that we're planning on doing is doing parallax measurements with this. One of the main arguments that flat earthers constantly give out is, I don't see any satellites. And even if you looked at them through a telescope, how do we know how far away they are? Good question. Here's how we can find out. And it's with parallax measurements. Because with the resolution that we have, you don't need that big of a baseline to see a noticeable ship with the background stars. That is exactly what we're planning on doing with this. And I also know, which was a really great idea, Bob the science guy actually has a project for us with these geostationary satellites. And I want to be a part of that project too, because he is absolutely right. Doing that observation will demonstrate once again that the round Earth model comports with reality. You would be able to verify it yourself, and we're going to do that also with this setup.
Astronomy Live, what we're talking about doing is timing the transit time of the shadow at the equinox on geostationary satellites, and using that and a little math to demonstrate the diameter of the Earth from it.
Oh yeah.
Red, there's one thing I wanted to show you. You see this little red knob right here?
Oh, hold on a second. Let me get it so people can see, because they can't see at the moment.
And I did ask about screen sharing.
There you go. Yep. Oh yeah, I'll make it so you can. All right, people can see you.
How do I? Let me
right.
lock his screen. Hang on one second. Let me lock your screen. Pin. All right, go for it.
Okay. See this little red knob right here?
Yeah.
That's a mirror lock. It's $25. All right. It goes right into the shipping screw on this old Meade, and you have something similar to it on the Celestron. So the edge, simply because it has a mirror lock, which means you still have to put another focuser up here, like a draw tube focuser in the back here, make it kind of a modified RC. I mean, you can lock the screen or lock the mirror. That's not a problem. And you don't have to buy an edge to do it. Now, the other thing is, what kind of camera are you going to use for this bad boy?
I was thinking of the ASI 178mm.
Okay. How big's the chip on that?
That I don't know. What I do know is that it was
small.
Yeah, it was small. But the reason why I was going for that, well, there's two reasons. One, monochrome is more sensitive to light, and it goes up to 120 frames per second, which is going to be great for International Space Station.
Yep, it also has a very nice way that the shutter works on it. But the point that I'm making is that's a very small chip. And as a result, you're never going to see the edges of your field of view from your scope. It's not like you're putting a 6200 on that thing where, your camera chip is so big you're getting vignetting from the side of the scope. You're taking the core out of the watermelon with that thing. So you don't really need the edge for that. The other thing about it, and I'm a big fan of edges. If I was going to get another telescope right now, my dream scope is a 14-inch Celestron Edge with a Hyperstar on it. But you're not taking deep sky images, and you're not doing wide field like asteroids and stuff like I do. You're looking at something that's pretty much in the center of your field of view. You're not really concerned too much with the edges of it. Plus, the size of the chip there is not going to give you the edge. So, Mike, can I share my screen here real quick?
Sure.
All right. Is that one coming up?
Yep, we see it.
Yep.
Okay. That is your scope, except it's not the edge version of it. It's the standard version, 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain on the same mount that you have. Now, how much were you going to pay for the edge?
I do know that I locked in the price at $26.99.
Okay, this is 21.
Yeah.
All right.
Does the newer C8 tubes do not have shipping holes for mirror locks? They do not.
They do not. That's
They
interesting.
do not.
I was going to ask
right.
about that because my old 11-inch also doesn't have that, which is
Can I?
All right. Now the other thing, that you
Can I say
you know,
something
if
quick?
you really don't want to have mirror flop, if you lock the mirror when you focus, you can't focus anymore. You have to use a drop tube focuser. All right.
Yeah, correct.
So the bottom line is once you kind of get into rough focus using your standard focus on the back of the telescope, you don't have to touch that again. All your fine focus is done by moving the eyepiece in and out or the camera in and out. You're not moving it anyhow. So why worry so much about that?
well.
This thing here, this one here that I showed you is $21.99. Now,
The amount
other
of mirror
thing,
flop, let me go to your mirror flop just so you know how much it has. It has, when I go from one side to another with a newer C8, you're looking at about 30 arc seconds of mirror flop from one side of the meridian to the other. That's it.
yeah, it's
Got
not
it.
very
Got it.
much. And you're
Yeah.
going to be refocusing anyhow when you do your meridian flip, anytime you make a major change with it. And when you're tracking, you're going to be constantly focusing a little bit, just kind of tweaking it a little bit to get it perfect. The the Edge HD is really good to get all the way out to the edge. That's why they call it the edge. But you're not looking out at the edge because you're not doing astrophotography. You're looking at that thing right in the center of your field of view, and that's the ISS. You have, with a small sensor, I might add, you will not have any issues with edge problems. Now, the other thing, if you're all set on a Edge HD, I managed to get one for you with Woodland Hills that would run you about what you got a discounted price from these guys here for. So let me see if I can find this for you. Come on, back to the meeting. Oh, for heck's sake.
While you're doing that, Bob, I just want to remind the panel. Much of the audience doesn't know what Schmidt-Cassegrain is, Newtonian, refractor, reflector. So if you can sprinkle in a little bit of kind of understanding for the
Great big
rest of us.
camera
But you
lenses with
explain
mirrors
it.
in them. Great big camera lenses with mirrors in them. Now, I don't know why this thing here is doing this. We're going to stop it.
So while you do that, one thing I want to point out is, and I mentioned this to Red in conversations we had offline a couple of weeks ago about this, is that I use the term mirror flop a bit loosely when it's really not just about the image shift. I suspect, Professor Nixie, were you referring to like how much the star's position will shift due to the mirror flop from one side to the other, right, in the image? So to us, like the big issue we have really is more about the focus shift in that process of the mirror shifting, and the ideal dream would be a mirror lock that is so good that once you've locked in at infinity focus and you're focused on a star, that it stays that way from one side of the meridian to the other, from one side of the sky to the other as you're tracking ISS, so you don't have to adjust the focus in real time. Like that would be the dream. Now I don't know if the mirror lock is going to be effective to that level, and if it isn't, then you're right, Bob, like you have to have a secondary focuser attached on the back of the scope to do fine focusing. Yeah.
So from experience with the C8 that I use all the time, the focus difference that you're looking at is probably, oh, you're probably looking 3 arc seconds based off the camera that I look at from horizon to horizon. I wouldn't be worried about focus, but the way, and I'll be right back and I'll show you the way I have mine configured, because I used to have a C14 and I had a mirror lock on it and a fine focuser on it. With a 14, you really, or 11, you need to worry about the mirror flop. I do agree with Bob that you're not going to need to worry about that or focus. And if you put a focus motor, what generally happens to get the mirror flop, and to describe this to everyone, there's a mirror in the back of a Schmidt-Cassegrain. And when you start here and you go all the way across, what happens is the weight is shifting, and that can cause a little rocking. And that's what we're talking about. And that can change the focus and the point. But with a C8, that mirror weighs so little, I don't think you need to worry about that. And I'll be right back and grab mine to show you how to kind of fix that.
I
Okay.
appreciate
My other
that.
screen sharing now.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. Now, this is a Celestron mount and a Celestron C8 Edge HD. And it's got everything that you have on it, except it is also a German equatorial mount. Now, you notice the price on that, thanks to the good people over at Woodland Hills, and a little cajoling on my part. They're offering that to you for $2,600.
That is amazing.
No, that's not amazing. What's next is amazing.
Oh,
And that is that you can get your Edge HD scope and an AM5 mount, harmonic mount, like I have right here. This is my AM5. This holds 44 pounds. That scope weighs less than 20. You can get that whole thing for what I got the original quote on, which is $31.99, which is what was sent over to me, is what you were willing to pay for your scope. Okay. Now, if I had a choice, I would probably, my first choice would be to get the standard Celestron C8 on your fork mount because of what you're using it for and the camera that you're going to use it. My second choice would be this one right here. And if you really wanted to go all out and maybe got some donations tonight, and want to spring for that $3,200, go for the ZWO, the AM5. These things here will not only do what you want them to do, they'll grow with you. And in case you ever do decide that you want to get astrophotography or you want to get a bigger camera, that's going to be a really nice scope, and it's going to be an excellent mount. So that said, and again, I don't get anything from Woodland Hills. I don't get a commission from them or anything. The only thing they do is give me kind of favorable terms when I buy stuff with them. I bought a $4,000 telescope from this last year, and they sent it to me still owing them $1,500, which is something they normally don't do. I guess that's their sponsorship. They work with me. But every now and then they'll also work with the people that I work with. And Red, I got you these deals just in case you were interested in them. And Mike, I actually got, if you go to Woodland Hills and you buy something between now and midnight Central Time, and you put in a discount code of MC Tune, you're going to get 5% off whatever price is listed anyhow. And that goes for anybody that wants to buy anything. I don't care if it's a lens cap. I don't care if it's a Solar Max 3. They're going to go ahead and do that. But they got some special deals for you tonight, Red, just in case you wanted to do it. They want to steal your business away, man.
they're making a really good offer here. They might actually succeed.
Well, I hope they do. They actually put this show on their social tonight, so we're all being watched by those good people out in California right now. So,
oh boy, the pressure.
Yep, the pressure. So it's on you now, Red. You have to think about it. Now, I will give you a full disclosure. There's a method to my madness, and that is that I'm trying to get you into a German equatorial mount for two reasons. One, I think they're a better mount than an alt-az mount. If you're worried about a wedge, I have an 8-inch Celestron wedge. I'll just mail you the damn thing. Okay. But if I can get you into a German equatorial mount, I think that's going to be better for you in the long run. Plus, it's going to force my friend over at Astronomy Live to write software to make his freaking software work with my damn telescope mounts.
Oh,
I'm
I
starting
see.
to get pissed
I
about
see.
this.
Yeah. Okay. I see the strategy here.
Kidneys.
Astronomy Live was very upset when I told him I was going to be leaving the P1000 behind for the most part. He was really, really upset. He's like, "You're encroaching on my turf, boy," and I was like, "But Papa, I have to
you can
grow
run
up."
a P1000 on this thing too. You can put a P1000 on any of these. Just need to get a
I
little
heard
rail
that,
for it.
being able to piggyback both. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a picture of that just to make everybody upset. So I can make Astronomy Live upset and I can make Flat Earthers upset. Oh, you guys are upset? Good. Your rage fuels me. But,
Flat Earth Tears, extra salty is my
oh,
favorite
yes,
drink.
absolutely. But I also see something here. Professor Nixie, I see a lot of red there and a lot of telescope. What are you showing me here?
Okay, so the way to get rid of the mirror slop is putting a motorized focuser on your C8, because what you can do is you can't turn this with hand. So you have to turn this with a motor. By doing so, you're getting rid of all the slop. When you put this in, you can adjust the gearing, because you're not going to get slop, the shift, because the 8-inch mirror is too small. By putting anybody's, this is ZWO's, focuser on here, you can't turn this by hand. It's going to lock your focus in place. And that's why I don't think and you can see there is no place to put a mirror lock on a regular C8. I don't think you need that if you're doing a C8. If you were doing 11 or a 14, you definitely need a mirror lock. But with the C8 and putting a motor on your focuser, you're not going to have a focus shift problem. I don't,
Absolutely.
and I do shows live on TikTok where I start at the horizon, I go to the zenith. I don't have to refocus except for temperature. I don't have to refocus because I'm moving.
Yeah. But I also want to make clear that starting out,
Yes.
Uh-oh, did we lose him?
Oh, he's still there.
I have a timeline that I want to follow
Okay.
with this telescope. I'm still here. Is it still working?
Yep.
Yeah, we got starting out and then you faded.
Okay. All right. Let's try this one more time. So I actually have a game plan for this telescope, whichever telescope I get. Starting out, I do want to focus on International Space Station satellites, especially the geostationary ones that Bob is going to be making a future video on. But later on, I do want to dabble in deep sky, and for that, I'm going to purchase a whole new camera. And I also need to learn how to set back focus properly, because apparently on the Edge HD, it's very finicky with back focus. So I have to learn that little tweaking. But
On
that'll
the
come
RAS,
later.
it has to be accurate to 0.5 millimeter.
Oh boy, that sounds
And your sensor tilt has to be accurate to 7 microns.
that sounds awful. I'm looking forward to
It's
it.
a nightmare.
So
You'll
The
be
edge is
talking to
not
yourself
hard.
by the end of the evening. Trust me.
Yeah, if and you're going to want to get a focal reducer to do either, and with the focal reducer in the edge, either the ASI 294 or the ASI 071 will match the field of view that you're getting out of a C8, and I recommend the F7, which is actually f6.8 on the C8.
yeah, because I want this telescope to do what I want to do for the first few years. But eventually, when I do go into deep sky, I figured that the Edge HD would give me a benefit because of
Yes.
the corrective elements within the tube itself. Even though deep sky is the lowest priority right now, that's only the case for right now. When I eventually produce all of the flat Earth butthurt that I'm looking to produce with it, I'm then going to shift all of that focus to deep sky so that I can start, getting all of the stuff I need to get for that. So that's going to be a whole new camera. I'm thinking of
Yes.
going Mac Daddy for that one. Like, I think it's called the 2600, the ASI 2600.
Okay,
big.
so yeah, it's too big. And there's a website called astronomy.tools where you can put in your telescope, your focal length, and your chip. 2600 is too big. You're not going to be able to illuminate it. Anything bigger than the 071, you're not going to be able to illuminate. And I don't recommend edges in the 8. I recommend them in the 9 and up, because the amount of coma and the light cone from the C8, you're spending a lot of money just around the edge. And I can bring up images from the C8 and show you that you're going to be cropping that stuff anyways. I would spend money on the camera and accessories than the
And the
edge
mount.
part.
And the
Yeah,
mount.
and the mount.
What are
The
what are
mount
these
is the most
edge
important thing,
things?
but I don't know if the Celeste and hopefully Celestron's not watching. I have a lot of Celestron glass. I would not own their equatorial mounts.
Well,
Yeah,
I have a
and-
Celestron CGXL, and
MC Tune.
I'm really
what,
happy with
What was
it.
that question of yours?
What's the edge thing you're talking about? What is that?
All right, so there is 2 different variants of the same exact telescope, right? So there's one that's just the regular telescope, and then if you use the regular telescope, usually at the edges of the frame, you'll get ovaling of the stars.
it's called
And
vignetting and ovaling. Yeah.
Okay. So the
Yeah,
you're
but-
literally talking the edge of the view screen or air view
correct.
lens.
Yes.
Okay.
There are extra lenses within the optical train itself that correct for that, so that your stars are pin sharp towards the edge of the frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
The edge is primarily used for deep sky and doing stuff like I do, where I look at wide field for asteroids and stuff. Now, the other thing that you want to consider is both the edge and the standard C8 can have something called the fast star adapter on the front of them, which means that you can unscrew the secondary mirror and you can put something called a hyperstar on it and drop that thing down to a wide field f2.2 or f1.9 with hyperstar.
Yeah, I
That's
saw
kind of
that.
like my RASA. You see what my RASA does compared to a regular one. It's just an enormous field of view.
It connects to the corrector plate, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I saw that. That's a sweet setup. A big question about that though.
$900
Putting
bucks.
the camera on the very front of the scope, doesn't that block the light coming in?
Nope. Same size as the secondary anyhow.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're not putting a
Dude.
filter wheel on there. You're not putting this big lunky filter wheel in the front.
Yeah, because if I were to
in
do
some of the big, like Palomar and stuff like that, the astronomer actually sat in front of the telescope. Maybe he was up in a cage up there. It doesn't care. Trust me, those things are light buckets. They've got buttloads of light coming in.
excellent. That's what I'm looking for.
The
Yeah,
only weird thing that you get is the wires coming off the camera can do some really weird refraction spikes. So you actually get 3D printed things to make them round and, just run the course of them around and things like that.
yeah. Well, with
Not a
me
big deal.
setting my sights on the Edge HD, let me ask Professor Nixie, Bob, and Astronomy Live, since you guys are more of an expert than I can ever hope to be, is there any legitimate benefit to the Edge HD with the 3 things I'm looking to do, especially over time? So that would be tracking satellites, planetary, as well as deep sky. Are there any tangible benefits to Edge HD that I would see as a very nice thing to have in the future? Or are those benefits just totally not worth it and I can get those in other ways?
Gentlemen?
So from my perspective, like I do like the idea of doing a motorized focuser, as Professor Nixie showed, to actually lock into the existing focuser that controls the mirror on an 8. If you do that, then you eliminate the advantage of the lock in the first place that comes with the HHD. You don't need the mirror lock, as he said at that point. And it also, this is more for just for rocket launches, but with rocket launches like what we were doing on this latest Falcon Heavy, when it comes that close, that it's just a couple miles away at landing, it starts to actually shift where you need to have the focuser. It starts to get so close that it actually is no longer at the infinity focus point. So having the ability to refocus on command like that can be quite useful in that particular goofy scenario. And so you would be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone then. And they do make, a number of companies make accessories that will go on to that focuser for a new Celestron 8-inch. my 11-inch tube is actually old enough that the Celestron accessory that Celestron sells to be able to put on that focuser to motorize it is not compatible, unfortunately, with my tube. It's that old. But newer units, new models, you can do that. And ZWO makes products as well. So that is certainly a viable way to go that would nullify, I would say, the advantage that Edge HD technically provides on the first two priorities that you have, which is satellites and potentially rocket launches and that thing.
Yeah.
And then it just comes down to deep sky. And I don't have personal experience using Edge HD. But Professor Nixie, you say it's really not worth it for the 8-inch until you get into larger sizes, I guess. So that's something to consider as well.
My opinion is, and this is what I tell people, no matter who they are, if they're looking at Edge to regular optics, that is from a C8, and that's at the edge of the field using a 0.94 camera, and it's probably elongated by 1 arc second. Whatever it's not worth it for that star there, because this is what you're imaging and you care about. So that additional cost, when you're looking at an 11 and a 14, you want that field of view, you want that edge. I think in the 8, I think
I'm sorry,
you're
man.
gonna.
In that upper left corner, that is slightly oval up there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just totally unacceptable. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
God,
what you
what
crop it out.
I wouldn't even
This
put
is
that out.
uncropped,
Yeah, I wouldn't even put that out, man.
So
That
there you go. There you go.
slightly oval
Bob
up
said
there.
it. All right, placing the order for the Edge HD.
All right. All right.
Bob,
So,
say you.
all right. My opinion is for your first two priorities, I think that you ought to get the non-edge. If you want to get the alt-az mount, so be it. Got you a nice price on it. If you want to get the edge and German equatorial mount, got a nice price on that one too. I think that deep sky is the only place that you're really going to see an advantage of the edge, or if you're looking at dots, trying to find asteroids and comets and little very dim things. But it's going to be a long time. And I will tell you the thing that I would recommend beyond anything is, everybody's looking at the telescope. Look at the mount. All right, telescopes are kind of like children. If you start a relationship with astronomy, they just start popping out. All right, my house looks like a telescope store, according to my wife, when it doesn't look like a Russian trawler because of all the ham antennas on top of it. You will collect telescopes over the years. You can't help it. But if you have a good base to put it on, a good mount, I would do it. My main mount is a Celestron CGXL. It's got a 75-pound capacity because I put a big scope on it out in the dome. My secondary mount is this AM5, which will handle up to 44 pounds. Put your money in the mount and then buy the telescope. If you're going to just do primarily a satellite and a space launch rig, I would go with what you were looking at, except the non-edge version of it, which is this one right here that I showed you a minute ago.
Yeah, that's the one with the black tube.
Yes, and they're waiting to take, Farrah's waiting to take your order right now. So want to give her a call? And she's going to give you a good price on it.
Yeah, MC Tune. What's up? You got something to say?
Oh, I love Bob's hard sell. He's good at it.
No, it's not a hard sell. Like I said, I don't get a damn thing for it. I just want to see Red get the right.
That's
Mike, when I got into astronomy, Mike, I made an awful lot of mistakes. All right. I bought a really fancy, my first big scope was an LX200 that was the pride of the Clinton administration. And I spent a lot of money getting a custom fork mount for it, which was a piece of shit. I couldn't get it, it wouldn't focus properly. It wouldn't track, it did stair steps. And this was a top of the line alt-az mount on a wedge. And I carried that thing in and out of the house, that 60 pounds of aluminum in and out of the house twice a day, every time it was nice out. And it was horrible. And getting a German equatorial mount made all the difference in the world. And I realized too that, scopes are going to appear. Mounts are what an observatory is based on. So you want to get a good mount. Now that Celestron mount is really good. The ZWO AM5 is an excellent mount for what Red wants to use it for. And even that fork mount, you know, as long as you temper your expectations, you're going to have to get another mount to do deep sky eventually, because they're just not that good. You know, you can't really do a 4-minute exposure with that thing. Even with
Understood.
a wedge.
If
So
now, Professor Nixie and Bob, let me just double back to something one more time, because I just want to double check and make sure that I am going to get the right tool for the job. But those mirror locks that were on the back of the edge that you don't have on the standard variant 8-inch. So if I am understanding the blueprints and their terminology correctly, what it does is it essentially locks the mirror in place to where once it is going through its pass, like let's say we have a space station pass and it's going to like something ridiculous, like 70 degrees up or something like that. The Edge HD, or what I've seen on the forums like Cloudy Nights, for example, it doesn't allow that shift to occur, which won't
correct.
impact the focus as much. Now you say that on the
Doesn't allow you to
non-edge
adjust the focus either, though.
yeah, it won't allow you to adjust the focus. My what I was planning on doing is that I would focus it on a star using, you know, batten off mask, whatever technique actually works. And once I have that particular focus locked in, that's the only focus I want. That's the only focus I will need for that particular observation.
Do
And
you ever
so
notice
will the
when you focus on a star, Red, and you go to turn it to the moon, you got to refocus a little bit?
on the moon itself?
Yep.
Mm.
It's not quite as crisp as it is on a star because it's a lot closer. So you got to refocus a little bit. Now, translate that to a low Earth orbit satellite. It's quite a bit different. And the problem you run into with a mirror lock is you can't focus it anymore. Now,
You
with a ZWO focuser, as was pointed out earlier, I mean, it locks the focus in place and it has to be motorized. The other thing that you can do is just put just focus it with a knob and then put something like this on the back end of the telescope, and this just draws in and out. And you put your camera on the back of that, kind of like a refractor.
Yeah, Crayford focuser on the back, and you have enough focal length to do it.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of Celestron glass. I've owned C14s, I've owned C11s, I have C8s, and I agree with you. And my mount of choice, of course, I own the first Paramount, is a Paramount. If you really want to track satellites and you want to track them from horizon to horizon, and you want it to be super solid, you pick up a phone and I'll get you a call with Steve and Tom Bisk, and you will have the Paramount of mounts, but you're looking at $7,000 just for the mount. And I wouldn't start there if this is your first thing, but that's what I would look at, because Astronomy Live can just say, go to this satellite, and the Paramount will already track it and do refraction for you.
Yeah.
That's,
Now you can do that
that's
with
incredible.
software as well to some extent, but
Would a motorized focuser, like, so what we're doing with rocket launches, I don't know if you've seen, like, unfortunately flat earthers like to say that I was faking my rocket launch videos. So what I did to kind of get around that was I strapped a GoPro to my forehead and I looked like an idiot to everyone who was actually there. But it looked like a headlight. But I strapped a GoPro to my head so that they could see my hands on the controls tracking this rocket off in the distance. So the question I have is, let's say we were to motorize the focus knob. Could that action be mapped to a joystick button?
yes.
Yeah, I'll show you the hand controller.
Yes,
Yeah,
please,
you
because I
definitely
want to see
can.
how this works.
Yeah, that can
Oh,
definitely
it's
happen.
over here.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, the thing about it is that ZWO focuser that he has, which I might add is
I
that one right there. Those are $200.
I see. Oh, so that's
I
a
mean, they're not
controller.
expensive.
So, Professor Nixie, what am I looking at here?
That's the hand controller. It's got focus in, focus out, slow and fast. And it just has a little plug that plugs into it. Now, I don't use it. It came with the device, but that's all you need.
Yep. And you could
Excellent.
probably map it in through ASCOM onto your joystick.
Yeah.
Because, you know, basically what you would do is you would map the focuser to the trim tab, the trim controller on your joystick. And just
Yeah,
kind of bring it
there's
in.
a little wheel on it.
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
Yep.
You know, it'd take a
how
little
much
bit
is
of
that?
work to do it, and Astronomy Live might need to write you an interface or figure out how to make ASCOM work with it, but you can do it.
Yeah, I have absolutely no problem making his life difficult.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a homebrew focuser that's very janky, but it uses an Arduino and a motor, and it's mapped. It's mappable to the joystick with the program. So all I have to do is add an ASCOM interface for it to map that to the joystick as well. So that's definitely doable.
This is amazing software that you've done, Astronomy Live. I mean, these images that you have of these launches
Yeah,
are
you
just
see that?
stunning.
That's awesome.
Thank
That's-
you.
I mean,
that-
just
Appreciate it.
stunning.
That's what we're looking for. So what we were seeing there with his software and his tracking and everything, it's just incredible what he's able to do, and I want to be able to do that. But let me ask one other question. What is the cost of these motorized focusers, especially the ones that you guys are using?
Less than
About $200.
$200.
About $200.
I have one on. I have an actual motorized focuser on every telescope I own because it's cheaper to buy one dedicated to each telescope than to try and reinstall them.
I completely agree. My second wide field telescope, rather than doing the Hyperstar, I got a Skywatcher 6-inch Newtonian, and it's easier to swap scopes than it is to pull off the corrector every time you want to go. And this is why you could having a solid platform. Mine is an Ioptron HEM27. That is my platform, and I have two HEMs, and those are my platforms. And you put scopes on top of them, and you do scopes for different purposes. I have 5 scopes and 2 mounts.
Yep. My main mount, like I said, is about the size of a VW Bug engine block. And the other one, you know, is this AM5, which, you know, you could literally put in a bowling ball bag and walk around with. Matter of fact, it comes with one. You know, they're really nice. That one that I showed you, that was the Celestron mount with the edge,
Yeah.
for 2,600. That thing there is a little heavier because it's got steel legs. The AM5 has carbon fiber legs on it. And, you know, it's one of those things, you know, my wife can pick it up with one hand and lift it above her head.
Let me ask you,
And-
Bob, about that. Since the
My
ZW
wife or the mount?
the mount.
And
Okay.
I love Celestron glass, and I would rather see you get an Ioptron or a ZWO German Equatorial. There's
Yeah.
just too many plastic gears in the Celestron ones.
I've had issues with mine and I've had to send it back, you know, send this thing back, a 62-pound package back to Celestron twice,
Oof.
but they fixed it for free both times.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
So let me ask you about the ZWO mount.
Yeah.
Since it's so light with the carbon fiber legs and all that, is wind a big issue for it in terms of vibration?
not a bit. Not a bit.
Okay.
The reason being is that it's got, you know, first they're broad legs, and second of all, it's got like a little sling underneath it. And that's where I put my power supplies.
Okay, so
you
you're
know,
weighing
or
it down
rock.
with a yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And no, and if you really get down to it, you can actually take the feet off of it and put spikes on it, which is
Oh,
kind of
nice.
cool. It comes with these 2-inch spikes, and you just drive those right into the ground. And I mean, you can't get any more solid than that.
Okay.
It's not,
Yep.
you know, it's a harmonic drive too, so there's no belts or anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice. They don't have as many of those, but they do have them available. I
I'm
had to
just
wait
thinking
a little
about
while to get mine.
I'm just thinking about some of the spots that we've set up historically, Red, for launches and stuff. You know how it is, like when you're right on the water and the wind's just beating on you. You know, at least
Absolutely.
yeah. But
Yeah, this won't be an issue at all. I live on a lake, and the wind comes right across.
So
You know,
let me go
you
ahead.
use
let me go
it.
ahead.
You use it for. You know, the
I'll
thing is, you got to
explain
be a
what's
little
up here.
careful.
Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
You got to be a little careful with the focal length. The ZWO mount is really best if used at less than 1,000 millimeters. But I put I put the 8-inch Ritchie Crayon on it all the time. Now, granted, that's got a focal reducer and it's only about 1200 millimeters, but even at the full 1600, it doesn't. I haven't put the SCT on it yet, just because I haven't gotten around to it, and I'm still not happy with the SCT. But I bet you it'll hold it, and we'll get decent exposure times out of it. And remember, when you're dealing with satellites and the ISS, what's your exposure time on that? You're not taking 3-minute exposures.
Yeah,
No,
it's
no,
You're
these-
taking
100.
30
these are gonna
frames a
be-
second.
These are going to be at over 100 frames per second, at least with the
Yeah.
camera that I'm looking to put on it.
Yeah, but I mean, you're looking at a minimum of 30 frames per second. You don't have time to jiggle.
Yeah.
It's just a continuous movie.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and explain like the absurdities of what I was going through in order to get to this point. So for the longest time, the Celestron 800 HD, the Edge HD, was on sale for $26.99. They recently bumped it up to 31 something. So
31.99.
yeah, 31.99. I was like, oh wow, I just missed my opportunity. Well, there was still that order, that price on Amazon. And so I placed the order for the Edge HD yesterday to lock it in. I just canceled it. I just canceled that amount because it wasn't going to be shipped until later anyway, and it wasn't going to be here till the 8th. So definitely not Prime, even though I have Amazon Prime. So I already submitted the cancellation order. So what I'm going to do is, you guys have convinced me to go with the non-edge variant, and I think that is a good step. And to add to that, you all have convinced me to go with a motorized focuser, because you're absolutely right. If I can adjust the focus in real time without having to get up from my chair, who cares?
Yep.
And I'm thinking that would be the best path forward. And Bob, you said that a particular website is looking for my business. Is that correct?
Yep. And Farrah's waiting by the phone for your order.
Oh,
That
good.
that
So
website, I have linked that website in the live chat, and I'll put it in the description as well.
yeah, and also MC10, I thank you for sharing that link down below. I did want to speak on that, unless you wanted to say something first on it.
Yeah, so I have to say, I was talking with Reds a little bit ago about this, and I'm like, dude, there's people that even though Reds has the money, he has it saved up, he's got it all together, and he's not like looking for a fundraiser. I'm like, but Reds, people do sometimes, they like sharing in what you do. And so some people want that opportunity, and some are Reds. Find a way. Don't do whatever you need to do so that if somebody does want to participate in whatever they do, this isn't, you don't need it. It's going to get ordered either way. But if they want to, they can. So I'm like, you need to do that. Just do what you can. So he did. He got so if our good friend AT2 Productions is he's been around forever, and so if you're interested in helping Reds financially, then Jared at AT2 Productions has a PayPal account. I'll put that in it's in the description. It's in the live chat. If you're interested, send it there. None or whatever is perfectly fine. So if you're interested, so Reds, go ahead on what you've done.
Yeah, I did want to say thank you very much for that, and I wanted to be explicitly clear that this telescope is going to get ordered either way. It's going to happen, and I'm going to have a blast with it. Flat earthers are going to get so mad at me. And as we all know, that is the ultimate goal, is to make flat earthers extremely upset, and that will happen, I swear it. And everything that I purchase, everything that I set up with this telescope is going to be to generate the most amount of flat earth butthurt, which will require me to get measurements, which is totally going to happen. Like I said,
Yep.
Bob has that observation with the geostationary satellites, and I will be participating in that. And
Okay, Red, the only thing that I want to make sure that you thoroughly understand is you understand that this is a one-off, right? This is
yes,
going to be a dedicated telescope and mount to do this one job. You're not going to put another telescope on this. If you're going to expand, you're going to have to buy another mount and another scope.
Most likely, yeah, you're absolutely right.
All right.
And
Now, trust
so,
me, that's a good excuse to do it. Because remember, you know,
This is
my
how we
wife
collect them.
comes home every night and says, Bob, you know what you really need tonight? You need to call Fair and buy another $10,000 telescope.
it's
And
perfect.
And
It's
she, you know,
perfect.
she's just a great woman that way.
So,
and remember one other thing about a fork mount, because I started out on a fork mount back in 1990. They're tuning forks when they come to wind. They're not like German equatorials where they can withstand about twice to three times the wind. It acts like a tuning fork. So that's the other thing. You have to step away from a fork mount because it will vibrate.
yeah, no, if I want to expand, I'm going to look into all options, and I know that equatorial mounts are the way to go.
Okay.
And I know that ZWO has some really good products, like
ZWO is good.
really
That
good.
Celestron's good. The Ioptrons are very good. There's a lot of good ones out there.
So when I do this, I it will be primarily for satellites and planetary, and but I did want to go back to this, that it is going to, yeah, I see that, I see nice Jupiter right there with a great red spot. What I will be doing, like I said, is I will be documenting this setup every step along the way. I'm going to show exactly what I have so that flat earthers know exactly what they're dealing with, but also so that you guys can be informed on what I'm purchasing. So if you guys do decide to donate, I appreciate it, and I will keep you guys informed every step along the way. It means the world to me that you guys are willing to help me out, and I do appreciate that. I will be purchasing this scope, and I see this phone number and fax and everything like that, and I will be giving them a phone call. And hopefully Amazon will cancel my order and give me my money back, because that was $2,600 they pulled out of my account.
So I,
Yeah, you'll
for-
be. They're good about it. They're really,
They're
you know,
good
they've
about it.
always done a good
And
job for me.
if they don't, I'll just print out a free return shipping loan and be like, hey, you see the 60-pound box? Ship it back. I didn't even open it.
Yep.
so
Well, you know,
want
I've worked with these guys for a few years, and I've probably, you know, almost all of my observatories, other than the dome itself, came from them, and they're really fantastic about getting it here, and you know, it always arrives in good shape, and they got great customer service.
Yeah,
Bear is
yeah,
the one that
I
owns it.
agree.
There's a lot of other really good ones there, Victor and Simon and all sorts of guys. They're
Yeah,
good folks out there.
I'm gonna take advantage of Amazon's return policy, if anything. And like I said, it's only been a day, and they said it would take 8 days to get here. So I think I'm well within the window.
Yep.
all right, can I say a few things? A little housekeeping here. So to go back around to it, I'm going to send you some money, Reds, because I want to know, and I want to be able to say that I had a part in that butthurt. That, and the I like to call it the liberation of Flurf tears, because that's actually what is rocket fuel. It's more powerful than kerosene, RP1.
Yeah, you
So
can use it as rocket fuel.
yeah,
And I mean, did you know that Starship is so expensive that they had to save money somewhere, so they just started using Flurf tears as fuel.
it's self perpetuating.
So
So
with every rocket launch, you get twice as many tears. It's awesome.
yeah. So Lubo in China is asking about joining. I don't know who Lubo is, but wants to join the conversation. If Reds, I'll let you decide.
Lubo's a Chinese astronomer. He's a good guy. I know him.
Okay. So
Yeah,
if
people want to show up, be my guest, and I
Okay.
can tell them exactly what I'm using this for. But I did want to ask you, Professor Nixie, with I'm essentially making an Edge HD out of a normal C8 with the autofocuser, because if it, and I'm doing a better job at it too, because I thought that the benefits is that it would never lose focus, but with the automatic focus motor, you can make sure that it never loses focus, and it
Yeah.
would still be, was it like $200 cheaper than the Edge HD alone?
all you're losing is some coma around the edge. And you know, if you're using that 178, which I use on all my solar streams, it's a great little camera. I've probably got 1,000 hours on it. It's a sweet little monochrome camera. And you can get started with astrophotography, and let me offer any way I can help you, let me know. And if you need help with software, let me know. And if you want to ever get a Mac Daddy mount from Software Bisque, let me know, because theirs already will track every satellite.
Understood. A question on the C8, since you're familiar with it. Is the back focus as temperamental as it is on the edge, or not really?
No, they're both not temperamental at all. What I do with mine, and let me turn off my background, and I will show you, I do something different. And it's just because I don't like having to line things up exactly. I got a 2-inch tube here. This is the 2-inch tube that connects to my focal reducer. And then that allows me to adjust the back focus so I can change filters and those things without having to screw everything in. So by doing this, I also have marks on it so I can get it back to exactly the way I had it, as opposed to screwing everything in. So I just use a 2-inch adapter so that it's easier to change filters if I ever need to. And I can change my back focus without having to do spacers. I hate spacers.
Yeah, and that right there, that's the C8 right there, right?
Yep, that's the C8 that's going to be live in about 30 minutes with thousands of people on TikTok looking at Jupiter and all kinds of stuff, creating
That's
flurf
awesome.
tears
Tears.
a different way.
Now you use the what was it, the 174 right?
Yeah, I have
And
the 178, the
or 178,
174.
yes.
Yeah.
So with that particular camera, the software I assume that you use to run it, can it be any particular software? Does it have to be ZWO's own software?
You're just going to download their driver pack from ZWO, and then it'll work with SharpCap or any ASCOM software. So SharpCap or FireCap or anything like that will work with it. The
Excellent.
ZWO also has their own software.
What's
The issue
what's
that
the
you run
highest frame rate
into
you
with
went to?
the issue you run into with ZWO is the ASI Air, which is their little computer that runs everything like that right there. That
I
really
see.
prefers you work with a ZWO mount, and it prefers that you work with a ZWO focus center and a camera. It's kind of the Apple of astronomy. They like using their own equipment.
Don't say it's like Apple. That might trigger me
No.
to not buy it.
No, it'll work with any mount. It has to work with their cameras and their guide cameras. Other
Well,
than that,
ZWO is the only ones I was thinking of. I looked
Yeah.
at using like a DSLR, but I just saw that there was so much. I wouldn't use it for anything other than astrophotography. So it's better to just get a dedicated camera. Not only that, but with monochrome cameras, I heard that they're more sensitive to light. You can get better frame rate, and I also heard that the 178 is a global shutter, which is what you want for fast
Yes.
tracking objects.
Yeah, that's what I
yes.
said at the beginning. It's a global shutter. It's a very special shutter that doesn't screw
The
up your.
only other one I would look at, and I don't know comparison wise, this is the other one I use, which is the ASI 678 if you want color. It has the global shutter, but it's got the color if for some reason you want color. And they're
Yeah.
both inexpensive cameras.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's a global shutter with color. What's the max frame rate on that?
I would have to look it up.
I see, because the reason why I was going to go with the monochrome was because of its high frame rate, and plus I don't really need the space station to be in color for it to generate a cataclysmic amount of butthurt.
Yeah, and if you guys ever want to talk to Sebastian Voltmir as well, I don't know if you've seen his work, I can put you
Oh,
in touch with
yes.
him.
Yeah, he's got some
He's a
excellent
mutual of
shots.
mine on TikTok.
Oh, really? Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's
No,
amazing who we know.
his stuff is truly incredible. I believe he even got an astronaut during a spacewalk. I want to say it was the
And it
German
was his
astronaut.
friend spacewalking.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Oh, what's his name? Oh man, I'm gonna blank on that. But anyway,
That's
yeah,
the
no,
ultimate flex, isn't it? Yeah, I got
it
a
really is like
astronaut spacewalking, and he's coming
spacewalking.
over for dinner next week when he gets
Oh my
home.
goodness. Oh man, got to get that picture signed.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
All right, let me interject here for a minute. I put up a poll a little bit ago. I thought you guys would be interested in the results of the poll. Which is your favorite scope? Telescope gets 53%. Oscilloscope gets 27%. Endoscope gets 10%. And Bob, you may need to tell people what this means. Anoscope gets 8%.
You know what an anoscope is, don't you? It's a fiber optic tube with an asshole on both sides.
Oh man, this is and
Somebody
what I'm
said
also gonna do.
I missed kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope?
Yep.
All right, so let's see. Right now, I have it set as attempt to cancel. So either way, I'll get my money back, and I'll just I'll contact the other individuals tonight so that I can get the ball rolling on the standard variant CPC.
They're open until 7 o'clock Pacific.
7 o'clock Pacific. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I will I'll give them an actual phone call so I can talk to them, and especially
Yeah.
to thank them for what they're offering me, because you're absolutely right. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for doing that, Bob. I really do appreciate it.
Anytime, Red. I've known you a long time. And anybody out there that's looking for anything, they do have that MC Tune discount code,
Mhm.
and that's good
I-
until midnight. That's good until midnight MC Tune time.
And I also wanted to make another thing clear, because I got a few comments over the last few months on Twitter asking if they could utilize any of my footage or any of Astronomy Live's footage. And Astronomy Live has said the exact same thing. So what I want to do, and what I'm going to repeat with the telescope, is any observation that I make with the telescope, any videos that I film, just like what I did with the Nikon P1000. Anybody is free to utilize that footage. I want it to be public. Now, the only thing I ask is that you credit me in the description. That's all. That's all that's required. As long as you do that, you can use my footage for free, because I believe that the footage that I capture and the footage that Astronomy Live captures, the information and the observations that Bob the Science Guy is able to put onto YouTube, I believe it's valuable and it should be shared everywhere. So for me personally, and I know for Astronomy Live as well, if you were to utilize our footage, you can do so for free. You don't have to pay us anything. Just credit this, say, hey, the footage is from these people, and link to our socials or our YouTube channel, stuff like that. And anybody would be able to utilize whatever I put wherever I post. And I also would like to make it very clear that I want you guys to utilize my footage, because that's awesome. It's like, yes, I'm helping, just like MC Tune. Can I come out of the basement now, Dad? I did good, right?
Nice.
Because I know that MC Tune, like when because let me just explain this. We were in the path of a hurricane, but just before the hurricane was going to make landfall in Florida, it was the equinox and it was going to be a bright sunny day. So I decided to take my Nikon P1000 and my Celestron 6SE mount, go out to the beach and track the sun all day long with a solar filter. And it was hot, it was humid. I was getting eaten alive by bugs, and there was a hurricane coming towards me. But I needed to show that the angular size of the sun does not change throughout the day, because someone was wrong on the internet. That's the kind of dedication we're going to put to this. and I also know that MC Tune shared that video everywhere, so thank you very much. And the same is going to be true for any future videos that I make.
That was a great video. The sunrise to sunset, sun staying the same size is undeniable. That they have no response to that.
Well, they do have a response. It's by using a different video with no solar filter and seeing glare.
Yeah, Claire.
Because that's always what they do. It's always glare, and they never call it out as glare. You're viewing glare, my guy.
Yeah, they have
glare.
You gotta light a flurf.
My favorite one was they said that they used a solar filter when in fact they just used a polarizer or something that was set right, and it's like, this is a solar filter. I'm like,
or they
no, it isn't.
Or they run a filter in software after the video or photo was taken. Like, that's not what we're talking about.
I showed them a picture of my setup, and they were actually confused as to why I was using a solar filter. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. No wonder you guys post absolute garbage on Twitter.
Yeah, the P1000 I have, before I even had it in my hand, I ordered a. It's not even my camera. I'm borrowing it, and I got a solar filter for it.
That's not a solar filter.
Well, I know.
Oh, show us the good one.
It's not a brag.
You want a solar filter? I'll give you a solar filter.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think about solar filters with that? Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, that's sexy.
I have no idea why that's sexy.
Dude,
that's really sexy.
Hands
That's
up, guys.
$4,000 worth of sexy right there.
MC Tune, are you okay with this? This is pure pornography right now.
Yeah, this is astronomy porn. That's a Solar Max 3 hydrogen alpha telescope. That's a freaking
Ooh.
So what do you think? What do you think about putting a solar filter on that edge, or on that on the SCT?
Do not.
I would get a
just too big, isn't it?
solar telescope or something like that.
All you can do is Mylar, and it heats up the optical tube, and it'll pull the fluoride off the primary. I recommend people get another scope, and then if you want a solar mount, I lied because I have 3 mounts because I can't keep track of everything I have because I love
Boomer
doing
brain,
science
we call that.
outreach.
Yeah, we
It's
call
this
that boomer
mount.
brain.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The Heliofind mount from Skywatcher, it's got a camera, it tracks the sun, auto finds it with the GPS and keeps it. So it's equatorial, so you can't it'll do twisting videos, but for most solar observing, and for me, like I copped the M flare today live on TikTok, that $400 is just put your scope on it, tell it to go on, and it finds it for you. I'm
Yeah,
lazy.
Oh, that's cool.
No,
I like
I
to
like
observe,
that.
not find.
If you're going to use
I like
white
the
light,
lazy option. Any
Yeah, if you're gonna-
excuse that I can find to be lazy, yes.
if you're just going to do white light, I would probably get like an 80 millimeter refractor and a really light mount like that. Those are nice for cameras too.
Yeah.
You know,
with
you
the,
don't have to do the, just that's perfect right there.
And then
You know,
you
just a
put
little
a
scope like
lunch
that.
calcium
Those-
filter on it.
Yeah, those are real handy. Those are real handy for, travel scopes too. If you just want to take something camping, I mean, you can actually take that and basically put it on a camera stand to just use it as a spyglass.
that's amazing.
And then what you get is, if you want to really do it, rather than putting a white light filter on it, if you get a refractor, a 2-inch refractor, Red, to do solar stuff, I'll send you this. This is a Herschel wedge that I never use. I'll send it to you if you buy a refractor and promise to do solar videos.
Ooh,
That's a good deal there,
nice.
man.
That is a very
really
good
nice.
deal. That is a very, very, very good deal. Yes. And then, oh man, that would be awesome, because I don't know if people realize this, but solar videos, that's also another way of producing flat Earth butt hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that from what was his name, JM Truth, that the sun is an interdimensional portal, and so
Yep.
showing videos of the sun not being an interdimensional portal would be quite nice. Yeah, as we all know, Now, MC Toon, you laugh, but you must remember he is outstanding in this field.
He is
Yep.
outstanding.
I'm just waiting for the Borg cube to come out of the sun, you know, when I'm looking at it in hydrogen alpha.
It's
I
an
mean, if I see a kilometer
interdimensional
cube
portal.
come out of the
We can
sun, I'm
we
going
can
to be
finally.
pissed.
Oh wow! Look at that.
That's from this afternoon. That was from the live stream on, and I'm
Wow.
on a TikTok, but that's the M1 flare from today.
That's hydrogen alpha right there.
Yeah, that's the $3,000 red filtered scope.
That is scrumptious right there.
Yeah,
they're
and that
beautiful, man.
hurts a lot of flat earthers because I get thousands of people in my live streams on TikTok. So
I'm
mean-
always amazed at the flat earthers who post these memes showing a white light picture of the sun and then a NASA picture of, you know, the sun in some wavelength. And they're like, see, it's fake. Like, guys, you can just go get a hydrogen alpha scope. It's not that hard.
I
Yeah,
saw
it
that
was hard.
actually Jason
they
was
have
one
no
of them.
clue. They have no clue. This is
Jason
so far
was
beyond
one
them.
of them. Jason shared that meme and actually brought up in the last conversation I had with him. Now, Jason Bjorn or Bjorn or Bonjour or whatever his name is this week. I told the story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's absolutely hilarious. We brought up the sun, and he wanted to know, what about these two images? And we're like, well, one of those is a H alpha filter, and the other one's just a white light. So you're comparing apples and oranges here. They're not the same. That doesn't mean that the other image is CGI. It just means you don't know what equipment they were using to take the damn picture. And then what really got him back was, hey, how did you measure the distance to the sun? So myself and Astronomy Live, we did the measuring. I had to drive all the way to Colorado to make it happen. Now, let me tell you something. There was so much Kansas. It was never ending. I went through I-70 and it never ends. There is so much Kansas. But besides that, after I was done dealing with what it was infinite Kansas, we did parallax measurements of Mars and a bunch of math later. We were able to find the distance to the sun. After I got done explaining exactly how we did it, he just left. Dude just ejecto-cetoed right out of the conversation. He's like, nope, I don't even have a meme to address this. So he just left. And I'm like, yes, victory. That's the kind of that's what I'm looking for. And I think this telescope's going to produce as much flat Earth butthurt as that conversation did. Oh, look at that image. You can see the solar flares.
Provenance.
Prominence, yes. Look at that. Look at that.
So what's the difference between a flare and a prominence for those of us like myself?
So a flare is a instantaneous release of X-rays from a magnetic field. It heats plasma by magnetic fields rubbing against each other. A prominence can be a flare. This is not. This is way too cool. This is about 9,000 degrees. Flares heat up to tens of millions of degrees, and they last for a couple hours. So people think these are flares. Sometimes they are flare loops, but they would be way hotter. This is just a filament, or it's sometimes called a prominence if it's on the edge.
Well, I know flares as being many times more violent, and that's how you tell them apart. It's basically look at the violence scale, and when it gets into like really violent, then yeah. So you have Dr. Phil, and then you have Jerry Springer.
Yeah, flares are transient is the way I look at it in terms of observational. You know, I remember seeing a flare in a much cheaper hydrogen alpha telescope. It was one of those personal solar telescopes, or PSTs, and seeing it for the first time. Like, you could tell over a few minutes of time it getting brighter, this little spot, you know, in the sunspot complex. Whereas these prominences, you can see them all day long when they're there.
That's a good question from Henry Thrun here. He says, how do they measure the temperature from far away? Can you tell by the light wavelength?
I also got another question here.
So the way we can determine the temperature is just like an infrared temperature gun when you go to the doctor's office. The laser beam that shines on your forehead isn't doing anything but telling the nurse or the doctor where they've got it. It's reading the light in the infrared spectrum and it's plotting it. Where the peak of the plot is the temperature of the black body radiation. We can do the same thing with the sun. We can do that with Venus. We can do that with anything. It's the beginning of spectroscopy, but we're looking at the black body curve of the different frequencies of light tell us the temperature.
Excellent. And so with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start winding down. But before I do, I want to respond to a comment that I see in the live chat. I don't know if I should, name names, so I'm not going to. But essentially, what they were asking is, wait, you guys are buying a telescope to convince flat earthers with a whole bunch of laughing emojis. No, I'm not. I'm not buying a telescope to convince flat earthers. I'm buying a telescope to make them insanely butthurt. That's what I'm trying to do. Again, flat earth tears. That is what I'm after. And if you provide evidence and you provide mathematics, if you're able to make videos that conclusively, with no question whatsoever, debunk their nonsense, they don't even have to understand it. They are already fuming. When MC Toon made that video about how this one flight debunks the globe and shows that it actually doesn't debunk the globe at all, it produced so much butthurt on Twitter, and they didn't even watch the video. The mere fact that it exists is enough, and it's awesome. But it's also useful to the people that don't have their heads up there, because they can utilize that video in their own videos to drive the point home even harder. There's multiple benefits. That is an awesome shot of the sun.
So what is that in the middle there that we're looking at?
That is an X1 flare that went off that I was shooting live on TikTok. I've been very lucky. I've caught 2 of the 3 X-class flares this last year. And up there, you can see another little flare going off, but this was an X-class flare that sent out, it was a few weeks ago, a coronal mass eruption that caused the aurora borealis to reach the top of Wyoming. It didn't make it all the way to Kansas, so that didn't help your drive. And just remember, as a Colorado native, remember Kansas is best driven through at night at a high rate of speed.
Was that the November 30th?
Yeah, that was about then. I'd have to look up the date and time.
Because I was driving to Tennessee to that debate. And they're like, oh yeah, tonight you can see it. So I'm checking my rear view because I'm driving from Minnesota. I didn't see it. We didn't do anything to try to see it, but that's a super interesting thing. You think about that. How is it that an aurora borealis could be predicted by observing the sun if it is insert flat earth excuse here?
Yeah. Well, we gotta remember that the sky is just heavenly energies. So maybe it's all connected.
And that heavenly energy comes slamming into us about 15 hours after you see that thing appear. Now, I did see the aurora here in Michigan.
It was 36 hours here. So it moved really slow from that local sun.
Yeah. That took 36 hours to hit?
Yep. Yeah.
Normally it's about 15 or 17, isn't it?
It depends on the speed of the storm. It can be anywhere from 16 hours to 48 to 72.
Yeah. The stuff comes out at 5 to 750 kilometers per second, roughly, is what the solar wind comes out. But
wow.
Yeah, we saw the aurora here. I think it was in June, if I'm not mistaken. I couldn't see it with my eye, but I could see it with a camera. With a 10-second exposure, you could pretty clearly see the green and the pink. So.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping up here. I have a very, very early flight tomorrow. It's going to be awful because my flight leaves at 5:30 in the morning, which means I need to get there at 3. So it's going to be an awful experience. But what I am going to do is this. Bob, I do have your or the phone numbers that you have saved. I am going to call them the very moment that this call is done. Once I'm off of it, I'm going to give them a
Yep.
shout and start working with them to get everything taken care of. I did get a few donations in according to Jared, and I do want to say thank you. I will make a proper thank you video during the unboxing, because what better time than during the unboxing? It's a match made in heaven. So I do thank you guys for continuing to donate to me. I really do appreciate it, and I promise to make it worth your guys' while. I know I did so with the P1000 score. So with that, I also want to give a huge thank you to MC Toon for putting all this together and getting me in contact with Professor Nixie. I am also going to be instructing MC Toon to give you my contact information, because you and we got some conversations to have, and it's gonna be awesome. And also, if you wouldn't mind setting up a private session between me and that solar telescope of yours for personal reasons, I would love to partake if you catch my drift.
I catch
Cover it
your
up.
drift. We'll see what we
Cover
can
it up.
do. And I might be able to get you some stuff.
Excellent. See now, Astronomy Live, I do want to thank you for getting me to this point. You know, your software has been amazing and everything else like that. But I want you to know, my goal is now to crush you. I want you to be absolutely upset with the fact that I have crushed you.
That's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
I'll be his new Padawan because I need the help with the software.
That's fair.
I want to be like, hey, Astronomy Live, look what I did. Yeah, that's right. And then
I just
do
hope to
this.
be as good as Red with that software, you know, by the end of the summer, because I've never been able to really devote the time to it to make it work right. I've been too busy doing other things, but that's my project this summer, is to use Astronomy Live software to track the ISS.
It's really good. I used it to I used it when I had my P1000 mounted to my 6SC mount, and so many people were upset about that footage, because it completely showed that with the right amount of investment, even the P1000 can see the individual solar panels of the International Space Station. You can see the distinct H shape. It doesn't look like an SR-71 Blackbird. It doesn't look like a U-2 spy plane. It looks like a freaking space station. And you can see that with the P1000, but unfortunately, flat earthers will never see it with the P1000 because they don't know how to focus. So with that, I'm going to say thank you guys so much. I am going to make a quick phone call, and you guys have helped me and make the right purchases and save me a lot of money. So thank you for helping me and pointing me in the right direction. I wouldn't have gotten there without your guys' expertise, and I will be in contact with every single one of you later. So once again, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, Reds. I'm going to stick around here a little bit. Got some super chats and stuff. And some
I'm gonna drop
things.
off as well. I'm gonna go set up so I can do my live show. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Red, any help? And Bob, you need the same help I do. Stop buying telescopes. Peace, love, and taco grease.
Peace, love.
Thanks, Nixie.
I'm also going to be dropping off here, so thanks, guys. Appreciate the invite. Thanks, MC Toon, for having me on. And Bob, we'll hook up again soon and try to get that software working well on your mount. I know I need to do some extra stuff to it to make it work well with the German equatorial, so we'll work on that next. Thanks, man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I've only been asking you for 2 years, but that's okay. We'll get around to it eventually. Dick. All right. I'll see you later, man.
All right. Well, it's just the two of us.
All
So,
right, Mike.
are you going to stick around? Are you going to go?
Well, I need to go for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I am a middle-aged man.
Oh,
But I can come back in a couple of minutes if you want.
sounds good. Yeah. I got some super chats and things, and yeah, coming back. I got another one in a little bit here. Another live stream coming up too. So, wow, that was a cool conversation. I followed as much as you did. Not a whole lot, but maybe we ask a couple questions about some of the kind of fundamental things that they were talking about that I know a little bit, and maybe would be good to get some clarification. But first, I'll start with Ice Belt Bank Mice Elf says, "Thank Titicaca, it's Tuesday in the Temple of Tune." Is that you, Lael? Tim Tully says, "Happy New Year to all who accept reality and the heliocentric solar system." Thank you. Hey, I'm in that one. Thank you. Tim Tully says, that was Tim Tully. Flat Earth Math is a new member. Glad to see you here, Flat Earth Math. I had sent him an email, and he missed it, and he sent this apology. I'm like, Flat Earth Math, Charles. He's like, apologizing for missing my email. I write email software. I miss emails. Don't feel bad, Charles. So, it's Zoomy. Ice Bank Mice Elf is Zoomy. All right, Zoomy. Silly Zoomy. Siggy Sigwald gifted 50 memberships, and then another 50, and then another 50. I happen to have been re-rendering the outro when he did that. So the outro during this live stream has been rendered 3 times. But it's live now. And then Siggy says for 666 ARSs, those 50 are for platforming Red's Rhetoric and Astronomy Live. Oh, it is my honor to have them on. I'm always excited when Red's says, "Hey, can we do a stream together?" And then he again says, Siggy was messing with me. He donated again, some more memberships, and then I had to re-render, and says, just to make MC Tune Live work on that outro. So I've got it down to a pretty decent process. So I include my Patreon members in there. So if you can do either, and you'll still be in the outro credits. So either place is fine to be a member. Siggy again comes in for 666 ARSs and says, "Could the distinguished panel rate my Nexstar 130 SLT with computerized alt azimuth mount?" So when Bob gets back, maybe we should ask. I don't know what that means, Siggy. It's a mystery to me. Bill Tetley says, "Hey, Tune, do you think I could come on and share my amazing Celestron story? I spoke with Reds and Astronomy Live not that long ago." I have just over 20 minutes until the next stream starts. So if it can be quick, email me or contact me at on one of my Discord or Facebook or mc2.mc2.net. Let's see. Siggy again says, "Want to make sure I get as many of you a membership." Thank you. The Watcher says, "Professor Nixie kind of looks like PhD Tony." Is it just because of the mustache? It's the mustache, right? Icy Spin says, "Reds, whatever you do before clicking submit, sort by potential flurf tears produced." He is definitely, butthurt is his main goal. But yeah, he's always sorting by butthurt. Judy Bassett says, "Great live stream tonight." Thank you. I hope you, the next one, I have no idea. Flurfs are unpredictable, but the next one I think should be fun if we can get someone to answer. Aaron Reese says, "The sun is an interdimensional portal. Entering it will transport you directly to hell." Yes, stay out unless you've got the right equipment, the right equipment to go to the sun.
Asbestos suit.
Yeah, asbestos. All right, 2 more. Oh no, it's Andy says, "Thanks for the stream. I understood less than 1%. And Bill Tetley said, "I just sent you a Facebook message." So, Siggy wants you to rate his telescope.
It sucks because it's not mine.
The Nexstar 130 SLT with computerized alt-azimuth mount.
It's a nice, if it's the one I'm thinking of, it's a nice, there are three types of people in astronomy. There are hobbyists that like to show the kids and the grandkids the moon and stuff like that. And then there are professionals that killed Pluto. And then there are people like me and Astronomy Live and Red that are amateurs, but pretty serious about it. That's a good telescope to show the kids the moon, and maybe a bright comet, things like that. It's not, if it's the one I'm thinking of, it's not a really good one for doing, 20-hour exposure deep sky imaging, but it's a good scope. It's a good entry level scope for somebody that doesn't want to buy a boat and an ATV to haul it, put that into their astronomy equipment.
So somebody said just bolt the telescope to the back of the 1992 Ford Escort wagon, and I don't know how they knew I had a Ford Escort wagon.
Everybody knows that, Mike. It's common.
Oh,
It's in the dark web.
crap! I did actually have, and it had some issues, and I'm like, I'm just gonna keep driving it. The brake lights. Not the brake light, the running lights quit working in the back. And so I'm like, I could not drive it at night. And in Minnesota, that meant I had to leave work about 2.5 hours earlier than usual. So I'm like starting work earlier and leaving work earlier just so that I wasn't driving at night. And then I brought it to my friend's house and I got trapped there because I stayed there too late and I couldn't drive home. So I got a ride home and my car was stuck there. And then for like a couple days, well, they customized my car. They got some red tape, they put it over the reverse lights, and then they got some actual old house wiring and an old switch from his house, the super loud clicky kind, you know what I'm talking about? Screwed that to the dash and hardwired that to the reverse lights that were now red or amber, whatever's the right color for driving lights. And so that was my driving light. So I had to flip the switch on the dash in order to drive. True story. Bill,
I can see you now, Mike. This is Mike driving home in Minnesota. Lights on, lights off.
Bill Tetley is going to join. He has a story to share with us.
And I'll go on mute.
Well, he's not here just yet, I think. Oh, maybe he is. It looks like his microphone.
I see his name.
Yeah. Are you?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
No, not at all.
Very nice, Bob. Many years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, down at Carpinteria State Beach in California, my wife had the wonderful encounter of getting to see Saturn and Jupiter via a 12-inch Dobsonian and 16-inch Dobsonian, custom home built. She became so enamored. She bugged me for months. Please get me a telescope. I want to have a telescope. I want to be able to view Saturn. $3,000 later, I had a Celestron Nexstar 8SC with all the trimmings. We get it in the mail. We get it home. I think I have the dovetail hooked up. I lift it up and about 2 feet off the ground, crash. And my heart drops and I begin to cry. And I think, oh God, I am thousands of dollars out of pocket. Turns out Celestron is about 15 minutes from where I was working at the time in Long Beach. And one of the techs said, go ahead and bring it in. Let me check it out, see what I can do for you. I bring him the tube. He takes it in on a cart. And not even 2 minutes later, he comes back and I'm thinking, oh, great, I have to buy a new one. Hands me the tube and says, I don't see anything wrong. What are you talking about? I look at it. He brought me a brand new tube, fully collimated and everything. I fully have to stand by Celestron after that.
Wow.
They're good people. I don't know them. I don't know them personally like I know some of the shops. There's a lot of really good shops out. But Celestron seems to have pretty good stuff. I've had bad experiences with some of the makers that I won't name for obvious reasons, but I won't buy their products anymore. As a matter of fact, I did buy one of their products once, and I just gave it away to a viewer the other day. I gave a $700 mount because A, he's a veteran, and B, I just didn't want the damn thing here in my house anymore. I don't have a boat, so I don't need an anchor. But he should have fun with it. You know, he's mechanical enough that he'll probably get it fixed up.
That's cool. Could you help a little bit? So what's a Dobsonian?
Dobsonian is a really nice telescope. They're enormous. They were made out of 3-foot portholes, big 18-inch portholes to begin with. And this guy named Dobson ground them down, and he would take the tubes that carpet came on, and he would use that as the tube of the telescope. And he would have like cardboard that would focus in and out, a cardboard draw tube. And what he wanted to do was years ago, a 2-inch telescope was kind of the standard thing, little bitty things. You couldn't really do too much with them. And he was the one that introduced really inexpensive, very large telescopes. And you can get these things up to 50 inches. Wow. And as far as aperture for the dollar goes, they're really the very best ones that you can get. The problem that you run into with a Dobsonian telescope is that they're push to, and if you don't know the night sky perfectly and you can't star hop, from this star to that star to the little thing that you're looking for, if you don't know the sky that well, it's very difficult. They're kind of for advanced visual observers. But as far as looking at planets, they're really nice.
So is that there's refractor and reflector, right? Is that
this? God, this thing's heavy with this. This is what they call a reflector or a refractor.
Yeah, so
right?
it's lenses.
Right, yeah, it's all lenses. And then you have reflector scopes that bounce light off of mirrors to magnify it.
Yeah, and they're convex mirrors, concave mirrors.
Yeah, they're generally either spherical or they're parabolic. And, those are telescopes like that are called Ritchie-Chrétiens. They're called Newtonian telescopes. They're called Schmidt-Cassegrain telescopes, like we were talking about with Red tonight, as an SCT, as a reflector, reflector.
Reflector, yeah.
A Dobsonian is also a reflector. The big telescopes are all reflector telescopes with mirrors. If you get a refractor telescope that's got a 6-inch aperture on it, you're looking at a $15,000 telescope. I mean, that's about as big as you can get them. If these things here that have 100-inch, 200-inch mirrors on them, they're reflectors.
Now, one of the drawbacks of a reflector telescope, in my limited knowledge, is that you cannot see space vampires.
Yes. Yeah. That's the problem that you run into. And as a matter of fact, there's a cartoon that says, guys looking through a refractor telescope, and you see the vampire over there, and the other guy's looking through an SCT. No, I don't.
Well,
that's an astronomy joke, and you had to know something about telescopes to get that cartoon.
And vampires.
And vampires, yeah.
There is, if you're interested, people, there is a Wikipedia page that lists the different vampires and their skills and whether or not they're reflected in a mirror. And it includes, of course, Dracula and the different series, movies, and TV shows. Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and the aspects of those vampires. It also does include, of course, Count Chocula and the Count from Sesame Street. Yeah, Blade, somebody said.
I was sitting down one day in the ICU and nothing was going on. So we had a little whiteboard there, and I started writing out the family tree of vampires, starting with Lewis and working to Lestat and all the way back to ancient Egypt. I just kind of wrote out the entire family tree of vampires from Anne Rice. Sad thing is, half the nurses knew what I was doing.
They knew?
Yeah. Yeah, they recognized the names.
Oh, all right. That's cool. All right. So, is he? So you changed his mind on the scope and the mount?
Sort of. The
Okay.
mount's very similar. The scope was different. I saved him about $1,000 and got him one that was suitable for what he wanted to do. The most important thing is the mount. The second most important thing is, the telescope, and then everything is tempered by what you want to do with it. And the good news is he knew exactly what he wanted to do with it, and he made very good choices with that. So I think
That's
he's going
cool.
to do really well. Plus, he saved enough money to get that focuser. Lots of times people buy way too much airplane than they can fly, and more telescope than they know how to use. And one of the problems that I ran into is I've got a really nice telescope, and I bought it from a guy that was really frustrated with the hobby and left it. Because what happened was he had a nice telescope and he put it on a shit mount that basically is a paperweight in my office right now.
So the mount is one of them, is really the
key.
Underappreciated
Yeah.
for what you need to get. The people all talk about the scope, but if you can't
Scope,
put it on
scopes
something,
are like children. They just, you start a relationship with astronomy and they start showing up. It's just like kids.
Icy Spin
you
is
relationship, and there it goes.
Is wondering how long you've been into astronomy.
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't use a telescope when I watched Apollo 17 launch in 1972, but I really got into it probably about 4 years ago. I had small Tasco telescopes when I was a kid, but we didn't have very much money when I was growing up, and couldn't really afford really good quality equipment until I got older and started to get into retirement. The kids were out of the house and stuff. I live on a lake and I don't have a boat. I don't have a dock. I don't have anything that you would normally have on a lake, because I decided to put my money into an observatory, and now I've got an observatory that pretty much rivals most community colleges, at least, and some universities.
Wow.
My son thinks I take better pictures than they can take with the telescope at the observatory at his university here at Central Michigan. So
that's cool. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this. I need to prepare a little bit for the next stream where I'm going to be calling some flirfs.
Oh.
What do you do?
This is Otis, the astronomy cat, and he's absolutely thrilled about being held. But he likes to. I was out in the dome one night, and I had the shutter was open because I was getting ready to polar align and stuff, and I'm sitting down at the table in there getting the computer ready to do it, and Mr. Lion jumps through the aperture and lands on me in the middle of the night. Scared the living sheep shit out of me. He does that once in a while, just because he thinks it's funny. You can tell he's laughing at you when he looks at you and slowly closes his eyes. That's how cats laugh at you.
Nice. All right. Well, I remind everybody, Bob, thank you for getting that discount code at telescopes.net for anybody that's interested.
MC10. And it's good until midnight.
There you go. And then if anybody is interested, so that's pinned and that's in the description. If anybody's interested, if you're interested in taking part and being able to say, I had a part in the Flurf Tears that Reds is liberating, it's paypal.me/AT2 Productions. I put it in the chat right now, and it's in the live or the description. So thank you for that. For those things, let me make sure my outro is queued up. Hopefully it's all ready.
I'll toss a little something here in the next day or two.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much. Be ready for the next stream when we are going to be calling some flurfs. We'll see you then.
I'll get on out of here and let you.
Here we go.
MC2, drop that beat.
All right. Thanks. Let it flow. Let yourself go. So I know that is the tempo.
So, yeah, let's do this song.
Let's do this. Yo, it's MC Toon, the debunking tycoon. I shatter flat earthers, make them face the moon. Your attempts are decent, but they'll swoon in the face of my logic like a deflated balloon.
Oh, MC Toon, the one to soon cartoons. On your real say, send flirts to their views. Your theories are like old brews, sweeping ignorance or just spreading the views.
FDFB stands for fumbling the facts, evidently. I drop truth bombs so splendidly. Your approach is soft, mine's unrelenting. I bring the science while you're just venting.
MC Toon, the flipping with silver spoons. I tackle pseudoscience to make them change their tune. You're the sidekick, I'm the room. When it comes to debunking, I'm the room.
In the rizzle dizzle. But hey, FTFE, we share the creed to educate and debunk, plant the seed. Though in this rap, it's clear indeed I've got the upper hand in word and deed. Alright, hold on a second. The Zoom call died. Everything died, no! Just one, like half an hour. Or less.